Yaakov, memory of her mother on her 20th yahrzeit, a day Elitzina Shemshon. A week of learning by Andrew and Stephanie Becker. Memory of his sister Yocheved Badzev, in memory of her mother, Eliezer, Dita Luxemburg, in memory of her mother, Martha Gittler, Chana Bad Yeshaya, Baruch and Dina Rabinowitz, Zeb Ben Chaim, Al Mosai, memory of her father, Meir Ben Yosef, Harriet Bricken, Rabbi Moshe Kranzler, in memory of David Dolney's sister, Deborah Dolney. And a day of learning today. No, that's it. Show us. Thanks, Michael. You made copies already. Yeah. Michael gave them to Mel, and Mel gave them to me, so I will bring them this afternoon. They are copies for the end of Baba Kama and the beginning of Baba Metzia. Yes. Top of the Amud.
That's right. Thank you. Thank you. Cookie test top of the Amud.
End of
below. Okay, we're going to continue. We're continuing today. Also, you should know one thing. I mentioned you have to be careful about all these things. It's clear from the Gemara and the Rishonim that it's incumbent upon the buyer to worry about these things. So I tell you, I see in America lots of times you'll go and the worker is really stealing from the boss, making you think that they're a nice person. So you have sometimes you have the waiters or the waitresses steal from the restaurant. They give you perks or stealing from the restaurant, so they get a tip. Since you have to, it's not so push it. You have to watch out what's going on over here because they're stealing, and there's lots of cases where the worker is stealing from the worker stealing from the company. They never had the authority to do what they're doing, so it's a problem because you assume everybody that you're speaking to is the boss, and they're not. So you have to all these things. You have to. It's a serious business. You have to watch out what people are doing. And this last one I just told you, I saw written testimony from the thief. You understand, from the from the serving person. They say that's what they do. And say it was no, they weren't hiding it. Yes, they're stealing from the boss. It's not, but that has to be already where the owners, the owners are really giving up on it. So I'm trying to say that's similar to the Gemara. We know the owner gave up. It's that, but you don't get there really is an obligation on the buyer to worry about it. You don't just get to say,
it's not so pushy because like now in bars, they're installing systems that measure the drinks. Because the bartender always pours a heavy drink, or he says this one's on the house,
right?
And it turns out the boss is losing a fortune.
Yeah, the problem's everybody.
He's making a fortune.
So some not always. Yeah, some things are. Some things are. Some things are. We know that they give. That's what it's saying tomorrow. They start serving. We know that they really are. Some, but it's different. It's different. Even when they can't do anything about it, doesn't mean that they forego the most simple. Sometimes we know that, like in the Gemara, they let it go. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. What's that? Yes, I'm saying. I'm saying. I don't know the details of anything. But you have to. I mean, sometimes they're cheating. Sometimes they're not. You have to. You pay attention. Okay. I've told you one of my tricks is I call the companies. I do it a lot. You'd be shocked how many I've spoken to big companies here in America. They answer, but you'd be surprised because a lot of times it's written. It's if you read the fine print, it's written. Certain things. Because when I first came to America, every second guy was cheating the credit card companies. There's all kinds of things you get perks, but they have a way to cheat. They would cheat because it's not this category, not the right category thing. So a lot of times when I called the credit card companies, it's written in the papers that you're not allowed to do it. You understand? It's not just. It's not Torah Shabbat Pad, it's Torah Shabbat Tav, but you'd be surprised. I'm saying it's written there, you're not allowed to do it. They wrote it down. Anyway, I'm saying, but the first thing, a lot of times, what I'm trying to tell you is a lot of times in monetary issues, not just companies, but also between people, sometimes I tell people, just let's talk to the other person. Why are we trying to theoretically find out if you're obligated? Let's see what the deal was. What did the other person say? What was the deal? What happened? So first, let's find out the facts before we start to get a theoretical halacha. Let's get the practical facts. Okay. says, below me show me payros etc. So he said, people who guard fruits, okay, we don't take from them, we don't take the fruits or wood from them because again, they might be cheating. We're afraid they're cheating. They're stealing from the boss. Rav Zabin and Shavishna Mary said, so we have a problem because Rav, or it could really be Rav, it should be. Rav bought a bundle of grape branches from the top of 119. Sorry, I thought we announced the top of 119, second line, second word on the line. Okay, below Mishomi Paris, we said in the Mishnah, you can't buy from people who guard fruits. It said you can't buy fruits or wood, wooden fruits. Why? Because they're afraid they're stealing from the boss. Rabba Zabin Shabishna Marys. So Rabba bought a bundle of grape branches from the sharecropper. No, the sharecropper gets a percentage of the crop. Amalei Abai said, how could you buy it? He said, didn't we learn that when the people are the guardians of the orchards, you can't buy the wood and the fruits from them. Amalei said, no, you're making a big mistake. Hani mili. When is it you can't buy? When they are just watchmen and they have no rights to any of the produce. And then when they're selling the produce, we're afraid they sold it. Aris, the Islam guy, remember, an Aris is a sharecropper. He owns this, he's paid a certain percentage of the crop. I'm allowed to say what? That's enough. Since it's only a doubt, I'm allowed to say it's enough. I'm allowed to say that he's selling his own stuff, that he's selling his own percentage. It's not suspicious that he has produce from the field. We learned that the Brisa, people who are guardians of fruit, okay, we are to buy them if they're sitting and selling in an open way. But their baskets are right in front of them. With tortani and these large scales, lifneim are right in front of them. So they're selling in an open way, broadcast, and not hiding anything you can buy from them. Okay, why? Because it's clear that if they're selling so openly, they're not stealing. But any of these people, in the second they say, listen, hide the stuff you're buying, so you know it's suspicious. Also, you're not allowed to buy from them. They're telling you that stuff is stolen. Lochimam, we said when we said that you can buy when the scales are in front of them. That's only what? That's only Pesach again. That's when they're in front of the garden. When they're hiding out behind the garden, even if the scales are in front of them, it's not a good enough demonstration that they're legal. You have to suspect that they're stealing. Itmar, we learned. Gazlan, okay. So he in his possession, he has things that are stolen and things that are not stolen. Maybe it's to look closer. When am I allowed to buy from a thief? Okay. Yeah. Rabba says Rabba says it has to be that the majority of his possessions are his. Then you can rely that you're buying from the majority and not buying stolen goods. The Shmuel Amar said no. Even if a minority says he'll tell it about because we're not sure anyway. Earlier, Rabbi Yehuda Adadaila. So Rabbi Yehuda Paskin for Ada, who was the helper of the rabbis. Okay, Kedivrei Omer Shafilu Miyachilo. He held like he Paskin like the opinion that even if he has a minority, that's enough for us to say what that you're buying legal and you don't have to worry about it. Mammon Musser. What about a guy who hands over the property of Jews? Remember, we learned earlier in our case that for sure there's a difference in what we learn and what we learn other places. But we learned in Agamar for sure when the guy's about to go and give over Jewish property to the guy, you're allowed to kill him. That we learned. When other cases where he's not about to do it, but he does it, okay, then we have other things. Then we have other. It may be the law slightly different, but in Maisa we can kill a maser, like we said, because ultimately they endanger Jewish lives. The people who give over Jewish property to the goyim. So he said the interesting point. He said, but what about his money? So Rav Huna, Rabbi Yehuda, there was an argument. Halamar mutalav daviyah. One said here you can directly destroy the property of a moser, of a snitcher. Why? But Chadamar one said no, also you can't directly destroy it. Madam mutalav daviyah. The one that said you can directly destroy it. Shalei memano, like we learned earlier, it doesn't make sense that his money should have a stricter value than his life. We're allowed to kill the guy. We're certainly allowed to take his money. The one that says no, and there's an important reason. Maybe he has good kids, okay? And we learn to see the pasuk says, Yochin Rasha, he says sometimes like the wicked person will, it doesn't really say that, but that's what it means. The wicked person will prepare the garment, but Tzaddik Yilbash, and then the righteous person will wear it. So sometimes even if the father is wicked, but the kid is kid is righteous.
Yeshiva bar.
Yeah, and that's why you have to be careful in general with inheritance. You don't know who's gonna come out what with kids. You don't know who's gonna be what in the end. One of the rabbis who taught me when I was young, one Purim, he was drinking, so people their emotions come out when they drink. So he's sitting, he says, my A's are B's and my B's are A's. He said, it turns out all the kids who we thought were going to be the number one, the top guys, they were not. And the kids who were thought were the B guys, they turned out to be the top guys in Torah. You don't know. Nobody knows, and nobody knows who's going to be what. Now, here's the Havilehu Aristor. Here's that a certain sharecropper. Now, this is a hard piece here, and it's really not explained. We don't have such a clear explanation. He had a sharecropper, so the deal with the sharecropper is the owner gets a certain percentage, and the sharecropper gets a percentage. Now, we talk about shakal, so he would weigh out, and he would give his portion, and he would weigh out and take his portion. So it's one of two possibilities. Either he was very, very strict, he weighed so exactly he shouldn't give a drop more to anybody else, or he weighed incorrectly. Usually, like the sharecropper gets a third, and he was taking a half. So he was measuring out a half, it was illegal, but whatever it was, something was not right about it. Salke, everybody has to argue what was wrong here. But Salke of Chisda got rid of him, okay, and Karal Nashe, and he applied the verse, the following. The pasuk said, the wealth of the sinner is waiting for the righteous one. In other words, it's not real 100% clear what was wrong. Maybe waiting properly. Okay, now this is a hard pasuk. It's hard because we don't know what the antecedent is. He says, what is the hope of a person who's dishonest? He when he steals, okay, he shall, okay, because God is going to throw out, is going to destroy his soul. Whose soul is he going to destroy? So there was an argument. Whose soul does God destroy when a guy steals from another guy? One says, what the Kodesh Baruch Hu destroys, he throws out the soul of the one who's stolen from. When a person is a victim of theft, they will see like he gets killed. The one says, no, the Kodesh Baruch Hu is going to kill the Gazlan for stealing from the other guy. Who says what that Hashem is talking about? What that Hashem takes the soul of the one who is stolen from? They'll see because it's written. This is the way of everyone who steals. The soul of the owner of the stolen goods, he takes. So you see what? So we're going to see in a minute why that's so. But the person who steals takes the life of the person they steal from. Yeah.
Could it mean that because the person gives up has yesh regarding the object that gets stolen, that's in the sense that
that could be another simple point. Is look, when you take away his livelihood, he dies. It's another point. Many parts. It's definitely. It could be emotional. It could be emotional. It could be emotional. And we are right. We have, like you said, also we see that people are poor. You take away a person's possession like they're dead. It definitely could be possible. Later, we're going to talk about a period to take away a person's possessions that killed them. Mando Amal and Absho Gazlan, the one who says what? That it was the soul of the thief. How does he read it? The see al tigzal dal kidalu. You don't steal from a poor person, even though he's poor, okay, or particularly because he's poor. The al tidake, don't withhold bishar and the gate. But when you give out the gifts to the poor, like leket and shikha and payah, the things that the get and the meiser on it, the gifts that have to go to the poor, don't withhold. Or the things that are given out the gate don't withhold from the poor person. Why? Hashem yori ribam. Hashem is going to fight their battle. But kaba es kaveya nafesh, and Hashem is going to what? Is going to steal from those who steal from them their soul. He's going to steal from the stealer. He's going to steal the soul. So you say Hashem is stealing the soul of the thief. I mean, 1 second. If you're going to tell me the stealing the soul of the thief, Foxy, what do you do with the other pasuk? Nefesh balabikach. He takes the soul of the owner. That sounds like what the one who's stolen from, the one who owns the stolen good. He says, no, even he'll read my bala means what is the owner? Bala dahashta. Not that Hashem takes the soul of the one who was originally the owner of the stolen good. The one who now is the owner, the thief. The one who says that it's the soul of the one who was stolen from. It says what Hashem is going to steal away the soul of the one who stole, which sounds like the soul of the thief. So how does he explain it? When Matam comes and says, no, what's the reason? Matam what's the reason that Kosh Baruch Hu is going to steal back from the stealer? Because they stole a soul. Okay, anybody steals even a penny's worth from another person, It's as if he takes the person's soul away from him. He takes the life away from a guy. And like we said, they explain because guys, 1 penny left. He dies from starvation. And it says not only that, we're going to have a list of proofs of what apparently are proofs of the same point over and over again. We're going to keep proving that stealing is like killing. We said the enemy's going to come and he's going to eat your harvest and your bread, and then it's going to say Yoklu banecha b'nasecha, and it's going to be the equivalent that he eats your son, that they eat. They eat your sons and daughters. Why? Because they take away their livelihood. And then another pasuk proving the same point. Mechamas b'nei Yehuda, on the theft of the children of Yehuda, asher shafchu dam naki b'atzam, that spilled innocent blood in their land. You see, again, we consider stealing like spilling blood. And another pasuk to prove the same point. Al Shol v'Abeis Adam into Shol in his house of blood. Al Shehemis as the Gibonim, for that Shol, that's what it says, that he killed the Gibonim. So it doesn't really make sense because the Gibonim, he didn't kill them, but what he did was he took away their livelihood. So my Omer, this is all of the Gemara. When you bring more than one proof, we're always suspicious. Why do you have to bring so many psukim to prove the same point? We prove when you steal money, you take away a person's life. So the answer is what? I'll tell you. He says, had you just told me what? Had you just told me the pasuk that what anybody who steals, he takes away the soul of the owner. He says, "V'chitema nefesh didei." Yes, okay, he takes away the soul of the person you stole from. But nefesh ben one of them low, but it doesn't get credit for what for taking away the soul of the sons and daughters. Tashmasa, I brought you a second pasuk that what, even though it didn't say the words, the Gemara says what? Basa banav nosav. They didn't eat the flesh of the sons and daughters. It doesn't say flesh, but that's what it says. And what? So you see what? That he even takes the soul of the children. You think that's maybe where the person steals but doesn't pay. But the person who's called a certain type of thief who steals but pays, like a mafia guy. Okay, lo, you say that's not called taking away a person's life. At least you pay, even though you stole. It's not taking a life. So Tashma, come no. He said because we learn Mechamas b'nei Yehuda asher shafko dam naki. Here they're going to learn the word Chamas, even though it doesn't mean that necessarily. We're going to learn Chamas means here that they take the property forcibly, but they pay for it. Yeah. So there was that they spilled innocent blood in their land. So you see what even paying. He said maybe that's only when a person steals actively. But when a person takes away a person's money indirectly, maybe it's not called killing. Toshma. So I bring you the final pasuk. Al Shol based Damim. Al Shehem says the Givonim. Shol, his house of blood that he killed the Givonim. Now the problem is, where do we see Shol didn't kill the Givonim? But rather Harag Nov he did kill Nov, the city of Kohanim. But what is the point? So why is he considered to have killed the Givonim? Shahayu Mesapkin Lahamayim. Even though the Givonim served the Jewish people, but they didn't have any inheritance in the land. So Kohanim had to pay them with water and wood, to pay them back. So they said Malabakasu. So therefore, since he took away by killing the Kohanim, he took away the parnasa of the Givonim. So therefore, what? No, they took away the people who pay them. Took away their parnasa, so it's like he killed them. Now we said we allowed to buy, even though women's property, the husbands have the property. There'll be a case where we know that the women have independent businesses with the agreement of their husbands. So what is they? So we say, so for women we can buy woolen garments and Yehuda, or flaxen garments in the Golo. So he said, now we learn the Brisa. You can buy from the women, you can buy woolen garments in Yehuda, clay pishna Golo, and flaxen garments in the Golo. Why? Because that's their business. So you can't buy wine and oil and fine flour because the husband sells it. If the woman's selling it, we're suspicious that it's stolen. Nor can I buy these same things not from slaves, and not from kids either. We're all afraid they're stolen. He says, but you have to know, even these things we said, even wine and oil and the fine flour, even if the woman's selling up to 4 or 5 dinars worth, let's just keep the rosha, she sells that in order to get a head covering, that's okay. We know that's with the consent of the husband. And again, and any time the salesman says to you, hide the stuff, also you can't buy from them because you know that they're selling you contraband. In the central bus station in Israel, the old one and the new one were always famous for being centers of crime. So the new one, the old one was, the new one was, the new one is. So a couple of years ago, in the central bus station, the guy's there. He takes the bricks out of his boxes. He's hawking his shirts or whatever he's selling. He says, stolen fresh last night from the ship. He says, he's yelling out to everybody. There's Gabbai Tzedakah looking at him. He says, so what? He said, now, furthermore, what about people who collect charity? So when you want to collect from women or slaves or children, you can take a small donation from them. A little but you can't take any substantial donation. You can't take because we're afraid that they never write. Hi, when you have families who are olive pressers, okay, then you're allowed to buy even from their wives. You can even buy olives and oil in large quantities. Why? Because there's no way they could sell large quantities without the husband knowing, so it's fine. But you can't buy a small amount of olive or a small amount of oil because that's possible that they snuck it away from the husband. We can take small amounts of olives, Begola Elyon, in the upper Galilee, or even in the upper Galilee, where it's very expensive. Why is that? So you can either say in the Galilee because the husbands are very strict, and even a small amount they would have known, therefore it's okay. Or the other way, that you just say even where it's very expensive and you'd be afraid that it's stolen, nevertheless. There's two ways to read it. Sometimes a man is embarrassed to sell these things in front of his house. Well, it doesn't look right. He's happy. Let the wife go sell it. He needs the money, but he doesn't want to sell it. For him, it's an embarrassment to sell. Yeah, you have to know. You have to know in general. Where you have to, in all these cases, you have to know what the social norms are. Ravina was a Gabbai Tzedakah. He's a tzedakah collector. Ikla Bei Mechoza. He came to Mechoza. He was collecting tzedakah. After the shade of Bei Mechoza, the women of Bei Mechoza came. They gave them gold chains and bracelets. And accepted the donation. Amalei Rabba Tosfala Ravina. So he said to him, he says, "V'atanya did we learn Gabbai Tzedakah makabel miyam?" Okay, we learned that the tzedakah collectors can only take a small amount from women. Not a big one. He said to him, "Honey, live name Mechoza." He says, "No." He says, "Mechoza, they're rich." He says, "So for them, this is a small amount." When throughout the years, I had always very strong contact, even though I'm not Hasidic, but I always had very strong contact with the Hasidic based in Yerushalayim for years and years. And I got great encouragement from them, and thank God I was fortunate. So one of the rabbis I dealt with, they were Rav Naftali Frankel. So I always, I'm an American, so I often had to do a lot of business with Americans. So Americans are very funny people. If you look in the Shulchan Aruch, so on all the laws, usually of kashrus, the Shulchan Aruch is really worried about the food. All the leniencies, etc., to make sure that to say that the food is kosher. Okay, sometimes the food's kosher. The pot, you got a kosher, big deal. It's something. It is something. You have to pay for the wood. But the main thing is, is the food kosher? That's what we want to eat. So that's the big issue. So all of a sudden, when I got into the real world, after I came out of yeshiva a little bit, and all of a sudden I meet these Americans and they tell me, listen, here's the shaila, but if don't tell me that I have to kasher the pot. After kasher the pot, I'm going to throw it away. And have expensive pots, these Americans. So I came to Naftali Frankel. So I asked him, I was young. I said to him, when the Americans tell me that they're going to throw away the pot if they have to kasher it, can I consider it? Many times, according to the Ashkenazi, many times, if there's a great loss of money, we can be more lenient than normal. I explained this a few weeks ago. So I said, can I consider it a half-say meruba? Can I consider it a great loss? He started laughing. He said, you see, for them, it's not. He said, if they're willing to throw it away, he said, it's obviously not a great loss. He said, you shouldn't be lenient. He said, you shouldn't be lenient. Because I was a yeshiva guy. I thought, there's a lot of money for a pot.
You should have taken it.
I should have taken the pot from them. Yeah. But anyway, that was a joke. So he said, he started laughing. He said, if they're willing to throw it away, see, it's not a great loss for them, obviously. Anyway, that's different. You see, there's a difference between yeshiva people and non-yeshiva people. When I was in yeshiva, a guy came and he was made a wedding in the yeshiva. So he came to Mincha before the evening of the wedding. He said, listen, he spoke to all these guys. He says, I know. He said, I'm making a wedding here and I'm very happy to make a wedding. I think I'm making for his daughter a wedding. So he says, but I know that yeshiva guys are not on par with other people. And I know, and I want, when you come to the meal, I want you to be on the same hunger level with the other guests. He says, therefore, I'm sponsoring 2 meals today. He says, I'm also sponsoring lunch. He says, I'm sponsoring a special lunch so that all the yeshiva guys will eat. So when you get to the wedding meal, you'll be equal with everybody else. So it was very nice, but he still lost. It didn't work. We ate more. Yeshiva guys got on a different system. Okay, Mishnah. Now, The next part.
Wait,
No, I should have. He's right. I did. If they throw it away, I could take it. It's hefker. If they actually from the garbage, I could take it. But I think go around to everybody's house to see what they did. All right. Okay.
matter of fact, there's a big
Yeah.
on the way.
Yeah.
From where the Americans
Yeah.
live.
Yeah. Yeah.
So you could type it
Yeah.
on the way.
All the way up. Okay, Rabosai. Now, the next part is some parts are extremely obscure. We know something about it. There's a rabbi in England, a wonderful. He's known as Dayan Gukachinsky. He's one of the Dayanim. And from years and years ago, a long time ago, he made an outstanding study of all of the weaving and spinning and all these processes in the Gemara, which are very hard to understand. And he wrote a book called Maisa Oreg. I have it in English and Hebrew both. It's a wonderful book. He's a wonderful man. And I had the privilege in Eretz Yisrael. I actually brought him to the yeshiva. I had him come to the yeshiva. He was, first of all, he's hysterically funny. And he's a true expert in all of these things. It's enlightening. And I watched him do things that I've only read about and never saw. He said, I don't know if there's left spinning and right spinning, because when you make this cloth, you have the warp and the weft have different spins. This one spins this way, makes stronger cloth. There's an incredible science, and the spinning along the thigh, etc. He knows he did everything in front of us. He stood there in the middle of the base matter, spinning this cloth off on his thigh. He showed us everything. Most wonderful guy. Anyway, with all that, we have some hard places here in the Gemara. So I say, and certain things, even people today say that certain things are just almost impossible. We don't for sure. Certain processes that they did, we never do anymore at all. It doesn't happen at all. Many things are universal. Yeah. All weaving has those qualities. Mechanically, so but many things. Yeah, but certain things are gone. Certain things you'd be shocked remain the same. My wife is a weaver. And she explained the Rashi to me, and she was correct. One of the hardest Rashis by the Mishkan, because she's a weaver, she actually figured it out, and she was right. When I went to the Rishonim, she was right. She figured it out, but she did it by herself. But after when I saw what she told me, she was right by the Rishonim. Okay, Muchin. So now, but we're really, so even though we're going to be a lot in weaving, we're really in the same pashua before. Buyer beware, in the sense of what? Don't buy stolen goods. Okay, you have to. You have to watch.
This time it's the workman.
Well, it's both. You're going to take advantage. No. But it's also going to be. We're also going to talk about what buying stuff from those workmen, because once we know what they can take and they can't take, we're going to talk what you can buy and you can't buy. It's still a continuation. Muchin, okay. The so to speak tufts of wool, shekobes motzi. What happened was the washer person, when they wash, a certain amount of the wool just floats off of the garment. So who does that belong to? Okay, that actually belongs to the washer. The owners are let go. But what they used to do was when you would wash the garment, so it would shrink and it would get hard. So what they would do is they would stretch it. Okay, they put hooks on the side and they would stretch it, and then they would comb it like with a thistle comb. It would make it nice. It would soften it up. It got a good thing. So when they do that, but when they comb it down like that, okay, no. And when he does it, he pulls off a certain amount of wool. That's a significant amount, and the owner wants it. It doesn't belong to the worker. Now, what happened was the weavers, at the end of the weaving of the cloth, they would add 3 more threads just to keep the end closed. But it wasn't really the weaver was there to keep it closed. So the one who does the washing was allowed to take it off because he was able to make the end of the garment nicer by doing that. So he took it off and it belonged to him. That was the thing. So the washer got those 3 things. Okay. So golden chutim. Okay, Shalom, and they belong to him. However, okay, Yeter became, but if the weaver put more than 3, let's say he put 5, that is interesting. You have to be careful. Then all 5 belong to the owner. Once he put 5, then none of them belong to the washer man, right? And he doesn't want to let him go. Okay, Al Gabi Lovin. But if what the weaver put was black threads to strengthen the end on a white garment, which stands out, it's not nice. Okay, no, till it's a cold, then it's no problem. Then the washerman is allowed to take everything. He can take it all, and they all belong to him because the owner doesn't want it. Let's say a guy was a tailor and he left over from the job he was doing. Remember, the boss gives him material and threads. The boss gives him all materials, and he does the job. He's a worker. He's a contractor. So when he gave him a sachut, he left over enough thread kedelit farbo. If he left enough thread to sew, we don't know what that amounts, but that's significant enough to sew it. Umatli, so he left over a patch, a scrap. He gimel al gimel, which is 3 fingers by 3 fingers, which is enough for a patch. So those are meaningful amounts. Sorry, those belong to the owner. He wants his stuff back. Masha harsh motive matzah. Or similarly, when the guy's working the boss's wood, the owner's wood, what he takes off with the small cutting tool, which is small shavings, that belongs to the worker. Of a kasha, but what he does with the big thing, like a hatchet, which with the shavings are big, that belongs to the owner. Now, also it's a bias. But let's say if he was working actually at the house of the boss of the buyer, often assume that even the sawdust, even the thinnest shavings, so balabais. Now this is a big argument over here. What the real criterion was it a difference between a day worker and a contractor, and that therefore the contractor, the stuff belongs, some stuff belongs to him, and by a day worker, everything belongs to the boss because he's just working for him. Or does it really have to do with where you work? That's an argument that we're not going to solve it now, but that's an argument. Is it really based on where you're working or how you're working? What the deal is? Yeah. So, yeah. Yeah, but we see it as cleaning up. We see it as cleaning up, right? But for them, that's money. That's worth money. You should know, when I came to Israel, nobody ever bought and you never bought anything that was real wood. It was unheard of. We either bought used, you always bought used furniture. Nobody bought new in the yeshivas, and if you bought, but even new furniture, it was always what's called fiberboard. Nobody ever bought a real wood. So in Israel, sawdust was a big commodity because the sawdust was taken, they mix it with glue, and that's wood. In most of Eretz Israel, in those days, the furniture was really fiberboard with a very thin layer of real wood on the outside to make it look good.
Fancy furniture. Yeah,
the fancy. So they do.
Fiberboard is sturdy.
Yeah, sturdier. Yeah. That fiberboard, sandwich board, all okay. Okay. Tana Rabbana, we learned it by some. You can take the scraps, you can take the tufts of wool that come off in the wash, you're allowed to buy them. You see this in a continuation where you're allowed to buy them from the washer. Why? Because we said, because he has a right to it. But now it says a little different than our mission. It says what? That the washer can take the two last threads in the weave. We said 3. We have to see what's going on. But they belong to him. Okay, well, now when I told you that the people who would comb it would stretch it out in order to comb it out. So how do you stretch it out? So they would sew a little loops on the sides along the length of the garment. They would sew it and they would stretch it out on nails so they could comb it. So the thing is like this, and it's a very interesting law. When they put those loops on, they had to put them on loosely. They couldn't sew them on strong. Why is it? We'll see. I'll explain in a second. He says what? He says when you put the loops on the side of the garment to stretch it so that you can comb it, you're not allowed to sew them very strongly, only with 3 stitches. Why is that? Because if you make them very strong, then they're not going to rip off, and you can stretch the garment very much. And the more you stretch the garment, we're going to see that the more that the comber is going to cut off. You understand? So if you make them weaker, they won't stretch so much. So they stretch them out that he's going to cut off and for himself. The balabais is going to lose. It's going to be less. We'll see in a second. But if he makes them strong, he's going to be able to cut much more. So he has to make them that they break easily, so you can't stretch it too much. Below you saw a beg of the now you have the long way up, let's say up and down and right and left. Okay, so when you comb the garment, you don't comb it on the long way, okay, because those are thinner. Okay, and it's gonna break the garment. You have to comb it from side to side. Okay, which are stronger threads. Okay, now when you go after you've stretched it out, he cuts it off. He makes it nice. He cuts off when it stretches out, so it bulges. You're allowed to cut that part, l'arco. But when you cut it to straighten it out, you cut it on the length of a lower rechava, but not to the width. Being ball hashvoso, okay, and when you want them. Okay, tefach, and even that, when you're going to cut it, only up to a tefach's worth rasha. That's the amount you do, but more than a tefach, you're not allowed to cut it off the straight.
Too many washes out of it because you keep cutting and cutting.
They only wash once.
I'm not sure how much they washed it either, right? Amar Mar, we said earlier, we our Bryce, we said Shnei Chutim, we said that the washerman can take the two top threads. Well, not didn't we learn our Mishnah Shalosh? We learned three threads. Mar says, Lo Kasha. Don't worry, it's not real. It's really talking about the Bryce of the Mishnah are talking about two different cases. Okay, pardon me. How about Limi? The Bryce, when it said you can take off only two because they're very thick threads, and if he only gets two of them, okay, because on three the owner is going to be stringent. He wants it for himself. When we said you can take three, those are what are skinny threads, so the owner lets you go up to three. So we said in our brisa, you shouldn't comb the garment, okay, on the long way, arvo, but you have to do it the side to side way. We learned the brisa the opposite. They said what they should specifically comb it on the long way. So look, Kasha, don't worry, it's not a contradiction we can't solve. One is talking about the daily garment that a person wears. The daily garment a person wears, okay, so you're not allowed to comb it the long way because you'll tear it. Because we're there, what we're really interested in is the strength of the garment. We want it to be strong. So okay, therefore you have to always comb it to side and not the long way, which would weaken it. But when we talked about combing it, when we said side by side, that is a a special garment, okay, which is for honor and for decoration, and the person doesn't wear it every day, and therefore what? So that when you do side to side, why? Because it makes it more beautiful, and even though it makes it weaker, but since he doesn't wear it all the time, the beauty is more important to him than the strength. Okay, we said when you put the loops on the side to be able to stretch the garment after the washing in order to comb it, he said you shouldn't put more than 3 stitches in. However, if you may, Rivas has a problem. Okay, we don't know what's called a stitch. In one respect, with stitches here, you put the needle through the cloth and then bring it back again. Okay, so you could call that a stitch. Or I could call each time you pierce the cloth, you could call it a stitch. Which one is it? He says. So he asked the question. He said, "I'm tuyi is putting it out through the cloth and back in again. Is that one stitch? Oh, Dilma Amuti Batuye tray, or maybe no, putting it out through the cloth and back in again through the cloth is 2 stitches. Says Teku, let's stand, we don't know. We said
in Shabbos, that is defined.
It's over here, but we're not talking here for malachos, we're talking for money. And when you cut it to even it out, you do it along the length of a lower not by the width. So once upon a time, didn't we learn the other way that you even it out on the width? So the answer is Lokasha. He says again because the 2 different cases, the 2 brises. Habaglima, when you said that you have to cut it by the long way and not by the wide way, that's on a garment. When the person's wearing it, what you see on the garment is the length. That's what you see. So that's where you do it. But the other way, this by a belt, and by a belt, the only part you see is you tie a belt like a sash. So what you see is the end. So it's actually the short way that makes a difference. That's where you have to straighten out. We said in the brisa that from the comber, you're not allowed to take the tufts of wool, because we said because he takes off too much, and that belongs to the balabais, it belongs to the owner. It doesn't belong to him, so you can't buy it from him. But because we're afraid it's stolen. But if a place where the custom was that those tufts that come off do belong to him, then obviously you're allowed to buy from him. Okay. Now these words, I know I'm going to translate the opposite of what you used to, but that's what these mafarshim are saying. That you're allowed to buy even if the tufts that he normally can't buy from him in some places, if he used it to stuff a mattress. Okay, you're allowed to buy a mattress full of those tufts. Okay, but kesses or a pillow. Okay, stuffed with those tufts. And that's full with those tufts. You're allowed to buy it. Why? Maybe they're stolen. My time. What's the reason? Because once he built them into a new utensil, a mattress or a pillow, it is a new thing. And he even if he stole it, he acquired it. So you're allowed to buy it. We learn. Now, Irin is a problem how to translate because Irin's like this. There's if you know the weaving process, you have to go up and down, up and down, up and down, up and down. So it's crazy. So what they do is they have a way to lift up half of the threads and half of them stay, and you just shoot it through. Otherwise, you have to go up and down a million times. You just go vroom, 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 back and forth. Raise these, go through. Lower these, back and forth. So that thing has a little area that where you stuff it. There's a little wad of wool that goes into it that stuffs it. And that thing, that thing belongs to it belongs to the balabais. You can't buy from the weaver. You're not allowed to buy that. It doesn't, because it doesn't belong to him. Below Nirin canal. Nirin is a problem. Nirin is either the threads that hold the rings that lift up, which we put half of the threads through to lift them up, etc. Alternatively, or it's either the thread or the hole in the thread
Or the gadget
that does it.
back
Yeah.
forth.
No, it's the thing that's up that goes up, that pulls them up and down. Okay. So no, it's called heddles in English. But the problem is this word is sometimes used for the string that holds the heddle, sometimes for the heddle. Okay. Below Nirin, and you can't buy from them. Nirin below Funkelin. Okay, and you can't buy the strings of the that go on the right on the side to side. Okay, side to side. Okay. Below Shir Pekios, and also if you have anything left over from a ball of thread, for example, you can't buy it. Avlochmem beged, but you can buy menumar. You can buy them even though a splotchy garment that's clear that it's made from many different little pieces of leftovers. You're allowed to buy it, and even though it looks like it was stolen, why? Okay. And Arab Veshesi Utabo, you can buy whether it's and these threads that are spun, that are made from these threads, the arig or even or woven, etc., or even woven things. Why is that? Because all those things, because even if he stole it, he acquired it by the changing it. So Amri, so they said in the yeshiva, it says Hashta Tabet. I said, if I can already take just the stuff that's spun, Shakli, I'm allowed to buy from them. Arug, if it's woven, he buys any question, it's even more processed. This is the one said, no, my RFTK. So when it talked about what? I talked about woven, it's talking about something else. It's talking about ropes that are made from felt. It wasn't really woven. It was, it was you don't spin them. They're not spun. Yeah, you just stick them. He says from the dyer. So when you want to dye something, so you bring your stuff to the dyer. He cuts off a little piece to see if his dye will take to your material. So an os is like a tester, but the tester goes back to the owner. It belongs to the owner who's taking the services of the dye. So you can't buy the testers from him because they're stolen. Below dugmos, or the other way. Let's say they brought a piece with the color on it to show him. That's also theirs. You're not allowed to buy it. Below tlushim shel semer. Okay, nor even tufts of wool that were taken off of little by little were pulled off of the fleece, because in all these cases, those we're all worried that the dyer stole those things. You can buy from the dyer beged sabua. You can buy a dyed garment from the dyer, because they don't usually steal a whole garment. Tavu, okay. Now, if you took the samples, and he spun them, begadim, or if he made from them garments, hashta tabu b'shakol, pardon me. So I have a problem. Says the Gemara, hashta tabu b'shakol. He says from just spinning it, pardon me, you're allowed to take it. Begadim buy us garments. Is there any question? The answer says no. My begadim. So what kind of garments talking about? It's talking about namte. Again, it's talking about garments that are made from what? From felt. Which is not spun. And even that is what is still called a change. If a guy gave a skin to the leather worker, to cure them, akitsuin, right, to the tanner, akitsuin. So what are the parts that are cut off? The parts that are cut, the leftover little scraps, batlushin. Or let's say wool that was pulled off of the skin. Let's say a skin of a sheep, he pulled off the wool from the skin. That belongs to the owner, not to the tanner. But what? But the wool that comes off after when he rinses it in the water, those things belong to the tanner. Imaya Shachar, one more little piece. Imaya Shachar, we learned that's if the extra threads that the weaver put on were black on white, so they even no matter what the number is, they all belong to the washer. Rabbi Yehuda, he said what? Katzra shmei. So the washerman is called a katzra, so it's a pun, because katzra means making short. The katzra shakli, he's a washerman, and he takes away, he shortens the garment by taking out the threads. Rabbi Yehuda, he says a kol in tcheles. He said interesting point. When you put tzitzis on your garment, it has to be one measure of your thumb to the edge of the finger to the first joint. So the tzitzis have to be that far away from the edge. And I have a problem when the weaver puts on those extra threads. Where do I start counting the edge from? Do I count it from the extra threads, or from after you took off the extra threads? Where does it go? So he says, I call them in chelis. He says, no, for putting tzitzis on, you're allowed to count as long as the extra threads are there. You can count that as the end and start counting the amount from there. Yitzhak, we couple said, but my son Yitzhak is makbid, and he only will count from after that part is taken. After the part's taken off. That's the end of the So then we'll finish this afternoon. It's Hashem. Yeah, that's not the end. No, that's not the end. This afternoon. Stay tuned.
Please be on time.
3:30.
Even a few minutes before.
Tomorrow?
We started.
No, we have handouts.
Are we doing minutes beforehand? 3:30, somebody asked me.
I'll be happy.
Because
I'm just raising
remember
my
the
hand.
show is 5 to 6.
We got plenty of time for the show.
In the past, you do
Sure.
part of prison.
Do it in shoe.
That's not to me.
Do it in shoe.
Well, there's all these things that the thing is, you think it's a grammar. All this can have different sound and this grammar.
You're the buyer.
Yeah.
Right. That's why
That's what it is.
because it's not so bad.
Right.
Exactly. Not necessarily.
Yeah, but if, you know what the easiest way?
Yeah.
I'm at Kimberly.
Yeah. She has a big loom also in the house.
Kimberly.
You bought the small one, yeah. Yeah.
Town with the paper hole.
Yeah.
The easier thing.
They have it's called the they have a town set up the way it was in colonial
Oh, right.
and everything. And you want to walk in and see this big barn. You walk in, they got these rooms.
Yeah.
And they show you how they live. And if it cost a day, they might make up this much material out of it. It shows you how expensive it was. You know, we buy a silk, a couple $100 to get a silk.
A lot of work.
There was a lady who had a farm. She had sheep and goats.
Yeah.
And she woke. So when the kids were learning Hilchos Shabbos,
They went there.
they would go to her farm and she'd show them already been a chassis and all the components of the loom. And she had a special loom built. It's more like the old ones because today they're a little bit different.
Yeah, beautiful. Beautiful. Okay.
And she actually sheared her own sheep. Unbelievable. But it was ridiculous. She charged like $500 for them.
Son of a butcher. They were learning.
You have to know that you every
They open.
Exchange. Yeah.